Hey guys, in today's episode, we listen to some voicemails from our league mates and break down the playoff matchup this week.
Welcome to the Coach and Commish podcast. No, not Adam Gase, and definitely not Roger Goodell. It's Chris and Sean breaking down fantasy football for the everyday man.
Welcome back. You're here with the Coach and Commish. I'm Chris. Sean, am I right? And, well, it's a doozy for our 757 league here in the playoffs.
For every league, I'm assuming.
Every single league here. Do we want to talk about what happened to our two playoff matchups this week? We had Leroyce playing Daniel, and we had the league villain, a.k.a. also known as Dr. Tim, against Morgan. And it looks like we are recording on Tuesday.
Yeah, this is Tuesday. Just the disclaimer, if some miracle happens in either of those games, then these, you can basically erase this episode because it's not going to mean anything. But we decided we feel pretty secure in what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Is this real life?
Hey guys, so yeah, we recorded an episode. We can't use the part of Leroyce's team because somehow by a miracle, Daniel has made the next round of the playoffs by a Russell Wilson interception. Everyone knows the story. I'm sure we'll hear about it in the voicemails afterward, but there will be a little interjected point there when we talk about Daniel's. Instead of talking about Leroyce's, we will talk about Daniel's team.
But it looks like Morgan that guy's got 60 points here, hopefully scoring 80 by the end of the night tonight. What do you think?
The team didn't show up.
No.
It's unfortunate, Morgan. I mean, he was at least prepared for this after the Thursday night explosion of Travis Kelsey, which killed me in another league. After that, I'm sure you felt like it was a pretty uphill battle. He just had some injuries he had to deal with. I think Waddle being in would have been a big help to his team. Not having Waddle really hurt him. Jamar Chase, that is really the storyline here for his team. What in the world?
Tyler Boyd, who's now the third option, outscored Higgins and Chase, but Chase only getting 0.8 is just awful for anybody because Jamar Chase is a starter in almost every fantasy league.
Yeah, unbelievable. Keep starting him. That's all I got to say.
If you can't predict that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's really tough for him, and then everyone else just
Devonta Freeman let him down. Chase Edmonds, I know, was a big decision for him. He actually put out there into our chat, he was like, I really want to start Tyler Boyd over Chase Edmonds. I'm like, dude, no. I was like, there's no way Connor's fully healthy. He's going to get the work. And honestly, Chase Edmonds got some opportunities. It was just the fact that the Cardinals offense couldn't do anything.
And they were behind to the Lions.
Yeah.
It didn't make any sense. So Edmonds was in the game more than Connor was for the passing downs, but ball wasn't going to him. Unless your name was Christian Kirk, you weren't getting the ball in Arizona.
True. So, yeah, and then as far as the Tim side goes, again, it's Kelsey. That's Kelsey and Rodgers is pretty much the only thing that worked for him either.
Oh, the rest of the thing was gross.
Yep.
Now let's really look quickly at Leroyce and Daniel. This one's...
The Beastquake and the Beast Tamer.
Oh, I know. This was kind of...
a similar story. You've got the Jonathan Taylor explosion, but not really much else from Leroyce's team. He's got Russell Wilson and Penny playing tonight, which could, up his score, but he's only sitting at 80 points. These sub-100 games, it's kind of sad looking at these playoff teams.
It's gross. Did you think Dak Prescott would be giving you, sub-15 points in the last couple of weeks here?
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Russell Wilson, he has to completely get injured on the first play, but he'll do enough to get Leroyce into the playoffs here. But looking at Daniel, he had a good lineup going into this weekend.
Yeah.
And it just didn't work out at all. Freiermuth also had a concussion, didn't finish the game, if I remember right, against Tennessee.
Yep.
I'm looking at Montgomery had plenty of carries.
That was weird. I watched that game, and Montgomery looked fantastic. He had some great runs. They just had no, end zone. So he didn't get a chance, an opportunity to get a touchdown.
As a Vikings fan, we didn't win that game. The Bears just imploded like they do every single week.
Yeah.
Even the commentators are like, why do they keep they run Montgomery for 2 plays and then take him out? So yes, Khalil Herbert is good, but you need Montgomery to stay in. And so as fantasy owners, like, yes, listen to Louis Riddick.
And it was
Keep him in
working.
the game.
Like, they were legitimately, he was picking up, like, yes, he'd hit the line and, lose a yard every other one, but then he'd break off a 10-yard.
12-yard carries. I mean, and he's good enough to be your 3-down back. It's really weird in Chicago. My favorite little gif that's going out there right now is like when they reviewed a play and one fan you can hear in the background of the broadcast is like, upon further review, and it was like a pause says, we suck. So that's the Bears season in a nutshell. All right, so sorry,
Leroy
Morgan, you're better than the other half of the league, guys like me that made it to the playoff matchup, and you fell to this bizarro weekend that we have in actual NFL football.
And despite all that, I think that's how we called it, though, right? Didn't we call Tim and Leroy's to win these games?
We did call these two, yes.
So it really ended up happening how we thought, just in a kind of grosser fashion than maybe we expected.
Right, we wanted a knockout 120-point, 130-point matchup, not what we got. We deserve better than this.
So this is going to be a little difficult for us because Sleeper has not put the matchup up on here because it's technically not in place yet. So I'm going to throw it over to Chris here, and he's going to give us the breakdown of Tim's team, who will be playing Mr. Boston Massacre himself, Phil, the stress-free fantasy player.
All right, so going over Tim's lineup, going into the matchup against the Massacre here, we got Rodgers going against the Browns. I think quarterback is going to that spot for him secure, 25 points there. Najee against the Chiefs. That's going to be a tough one. They've gone away from Najee Harris, as we were talking about. In Pittsburgh, the offense just
as opposed to all the other Najees in the league.
I know, right? I put Najee. Okay. But somebody that should be getting the ball more often has been kind of taken away. Not even in the passing game. They're looking elsewhere. But I still think he's a plug and start.
Yeah, I mean, I was shocked this week at the fact that he only, was he sub 5 points or around 5 points? Like,
again, bizarro weekend.
Yeah, I think just throw it out. But again, the Chiefs matchup's probably not the easiest. We'll see.
All right, so Melvin Gordon against the Raiders. It's a favorable matchup. Still a very 50-50 split with Javonte Williams there. But I think he's a touchdown-dependent double-digit back. Yeah,
I mean, we say it's a 50-50 split, but this team legit runs the ball like a good 30 times a game. So he's going to get his opportunities, and I think he'll start him.
Against Cincy, a good team. He had 16 touches this week with Javonte Williams there. So you'll have to start him. This is where it gets a little different with the wide receivers. We know he's going to go with Amari Cooper in Washington, even though Cooper had a less than 2-point game this week. Going to have to keep in your lineup. Mooney or Hollywood. All right, we got Mooney.
And Devontae Parker's there too, who actually did have a good week.
And
no, he doesn't have Devontae Parker. I'm sorry. No, I'm thinking Dynasty.
Oh yeah. So what do we think about Darnell Mooney or Hollywood Brown here?
So give me the matchups again.
Mooney's going against Seattle. Hollywood against Cincinnati.
Ooh. So it's probably a lot dependent on Lamar. If Lamar is back, I just think you got to go down with Hollywood. I think he's got too much potential. He didn't look too bad last week, actually, coming off of was he an illness or something?
Yeah.
So I think that I would probably throw him in there. But Mooney, I mean, the connection between him and Fields is a strong one. So
it's extremely strong. The offense around
I feel like that's the way he'll probably go, like he did this week. But I honestly would play Marquise, I think.
All right. So then from there, if he goes Marquise here at the starting of the wide receiver 2 spot or was 1 spot here, do you put Mooney, Gaskin, or Henderson at the flex?
Well, it's a little TBD because we haven't seen the Tuesday night game to see how this breaks down between Sony Michel and Darrell Henderson. But I expect it. I mean, there was a report that came out today that there's legit. McVay says we have 2 RB1s, which when a coach says that means it's a hot hand approach type of thing.
Man, I know.
Terrible for fantasy. But yeah, I think out of those options, honestly, it's going to be between like a Gaskin and a Mooney.
Yeah.
But it's going to be hard.
I mean, Tim's going to lose some sleep,
I don't envy
too.
this decision.
Yeah, because Miles Sanders reports he's now the lead back in a run-heavy offense in Philly. Imagine if, again, we're doing this on Tuesday. Imagine if Sanders has a good night tonight.
It's true. That's another option to look at.
Tim's going to be going. He's not going to sleep very well this whole week. And then Kelsey on COVID, I think he'll be back from it. He's vaccinated, so all he has to do is be asymptomatic and test back in.
And then if he's not, then you lose Tim.
Then you lose. Yeah, well, there you go. So you're going against an illness for Kelsey. That's the only thing to hold him back. Then kickers and defenses we don't really care about. All right.
And then Phil's team on the flip side here, big big decision at the quarterback spot because he does have Lamar Jackson, who did not play last week. He's got another week to heal from this ankle. They said he was close. I think he did travel with the team.
Yeah.
So I think that if Lamar's back, you have to play him as opposed to last week when I said I would sit him. I think that he's probably had enough time that he'll be effective enough. He's got Garoppolo on the bench, who's going to be playing Tennessee. Good matchup.
Yeah.
I think he can slot him in there, but it's definitely not going to be that boost to your team that you'd want against an Aaron Rodgers. And then he's got James Conner, not quite as strong a start as it had been before, playing the Colts. I don't know if he's got much of an option here. He's got Singletary. I guess maybe I'll throw that to you. If you've got Singletary, he's become the lead back now for the Bills.
Zach Moss was a healthy scratch again. He's going to get. How many touches did he get this week? I don't know. It wasn't.
He's playing New England, which sounds like a
pretty.
bad matchup, but if they give up anything, it's to the run.
Because what? Chuba Hubbard against Tampa?
Yeah.
Yikes! Right?
So the big thing for him is the running back situation is not great. But then we go over to the wide receivers and easy decisions here. Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp. Talk about a boost to your lineup.
Mark
those
Andrews.
guys. And then Mark Andrews. Doesn't even matter what these matchups are. We've got Pitt. We have Tyreek Hill playing Pittsburgh, Cooper Kupp playing Minnesota, and Mark Andrews playing Cincinnati.
I know.
Doesn't matter. We're starting all those players, and then a nice flex of Keenan Allen against Houston. So that is going to be locked in. It's really just going to come down to these decisions at the running back position. Good luck, Phil. I don't know what to do there. It probably doesn't matter. I'd probably need none of these options score over 10 points. So here's to your wide receivers, just boosting your team.
Yeah, so do you want to put quick thoughts here what this matchup between Phil and Tim are? I kind of think Phil might feel a little comfortable with his receivers, and then his tight end might cancel out Kelsey's power.
So I would say that probably about 3 weeks ago, this matchup would have been a slam dunk Phil win, not even a close game. But I think it tightens up here with the fact that James Conner has not, he's not getting the full workload that he was. I think he's better than he was last week. And then Chuba Hubbard or Singletary at running back is gross. And then Lamar Jackson. So I'm still going to lean the Phil side, I think, just based on the fact that that wide receiving core can go off for 60 points easy.
Oh, yeah.
And then Mark Andrews versus Travis Kelsey kind of cancels out what Kelsey can do. I mean, we saw this week Mark Andrews said, hold my beer. I'm still going for this number one spot here, Kelsey.
Yes,
I don't care what you did on Thursday.
Yeah, and then Keenan Allen at a flex against the Texans is something that I feel is favorable to Phil. Now let's go to the matchup that we all really care about.
All right, so even though, Daniel, you are my opponent, I do want to give you your due in this episode, so I will give you my matchup preview for your team. You've got Dak Prescott playing Washington this week. It's been rough with Dak Prescott, but I think you just got to keep rolling with him. Got to keep going with Dak. Against Washington, it's a good matchup. We saw what Jalen Hurts did last week. Unfortunately, you have Eckler out at this point. I think he has a shot to come back, in which case you would be playing him. Either way, Justin Jackson, you had him on your bench. Looks like a good replacement. Actually looked pretty good in the time that he played last week. So just slot him right in. David Montgomery, easy decision there. The decisions that I think you have to make here is going to be your wide receivers. You've got Russell Gage, DJ Moore, Michael Gallup. Not playing Robbie Anderson, not Lazard. So it's probably not much of an option here. I think your top two guys are probably Russell Gage and DJ Moore, which you already have slotted in there. You may have to make the decision with Michael Gallup, but I think at your flex, if there is no DeAndre Swift, but there is a Jamal Williams, that will be the hard time decision. Me personally, I usually lean with the running back. It's up to you what you would like to do. I see you've slotted in Noah Fant as your tight end instead of Pat Freiermuth. I think I like this, actually. If it was my team, I would probably do the same. Fant has actually done okay in that offense, and they have a good matchup against the Las Vegas Raiders. Freiermuth coming off that injury. We don't even know if he'll play with the concussion, but he does play Kansas City. So if he is cleared, I think I'm going to change my mind. I would play Pat Freiermuth, I think. But it's a close call between those two and one that you're going to have to make. That's my little breakdown of your team. Daniel, congrats on somehow coming the Tuesday night miracle. All right.
So,
to the commish. So I had an unfortunate week I really enjoyed my bye week because this, the muck that was this week, I'm glad I didn't have to play in.
Yes.
But I was sitting there watching the Tampa Bay game, and Like, I'm not joking. I was literally each play going, just don't get hurt, Godwin. Just don't get hurt, Godwin.
Oh, it's awful.
And looks like torn ACL, out for the year. Unfortunate. I guess it's better this week than next week on my team while I'm playing. I mean, the man had 7 points in that god-awful game in the first quarter before he got hurt. Like, that's how he would have just, So if I lose this championship, I now have my, if I would have won if I had Godwin, excuse. But I'm still feeling okay about the team. I filled the bench with some wide receivers in case of something like this. So I have Tom Brady playing Carolina this week. They have played good on defense, but to me, I'm feeling okay because what happened this week, I think Tom Brady is a type of player that next week will say
it's vengeance.
Yeah, I'm coming back. No shutout this week. I don't expect a blowout performance, but a 20+ point game from Tom Brady I think is very much in the cards.
Yeah.
Then I've got Alvin Kamara against the Dolphins. Good. They've been good against the run, so I'm not excited about this matchup, but it is Kamara. He is their offense. I think that he gets me a good 10 to 15 points. Dalvin Cook playing the Rams. Dalvin's just been on fire. Didn't have a great week this week, but we talked about that offense. Just couldn't get anything figured out.
Yeah, that offensive line could not block one guy.
And you know that Mike Zimmer is going to go into the what do you call the war room or whatever?
Go into the coaching office and say, run the ball, run the ball, run. He said out of half. He's like,
and they didn't really do it
so much. We need to run more.
Yeah.
So they're going to run the ball so much against the Rams next week.
So then I lost Godwin, so I'll be having my decision here between my stable of wide receivers of T. Higgins, Brandon Ayuk, Michael Pittman, and Julio Jones. Those will really be the options. And then Tyler Lockett, of course, who should be off the COVID list at that point. Lockett, I think, is probably the most secured for me in that option. I'll probably have the decision between T. Higgins and Pittman.
Yeah.
Pittman has a good matchup against Arizona, probably a high-scoring game. But Higgins has, seemed to get the targets. I'm leaning the Higgins side just because of how bad Michael Pittman has been.
I agree with you on leaning T. Higgins. It was a weird week in Cincinnati, but I'd rather go Higgins there and Lockett at your receivers.
And then I've got Javonte Williams in a nice matchup against the Raiders.
Oh, yeah.
He just continues to split the work. It's basically, you could listen to what our argument was for Melvin Gordon. It's the same thing. Again, 15 rushing attempts. He's running about 4.5 yards a carry. And it's really going to come down to the touchdown, whether he has a boom week for me or just an okay one.
Okay.
And then at kicker, I'm going to have to find a new one because this guy's on COVID.
On the COVID list.
And then next year I won't have to worry about this because we won't have kickers and defenses. So,
yes, sir. You better vote that way this offseason.
I told you, there's not a vote. It's literally going to be no commish or no kickers and defenses.
Yeah, the league is going to disband for those guys who keep holding on to that.
Yeah, I think we have the votes this year. I'm feeling the groundswell.
So that's what our thoughts were. League mates, jump in the chat there, and then after we have the matchups firmed up tonight.
Yep.
Our league mates will be giving us some voicemails, and they'll be following right after this. So don't sign off the podcast once we go off. We're going to put in the...
Yeah, we'll give you the deuces, and then to follow will be each of our... even the commish will be sending in a voicemail for how we feel about our matchup.
So all four guys that are going into the semis next week will give us a voicemail telling us what their thoughts are, and hopefully a little bit of trash talk.
Hopefully.
No Morgan in here, so I don't know.
All right, well, that's what we got for you guys this week. We actually went a little longer than we even thought.
Man, that's a lot of breakdown.
But we broke it down, which I know Tim, who's in the playoffs, he wants to hear all the nitty-gritties, so... You're welcome, Tim.
That's for you, Tim. That's what we do it for. Alrighty, guys.
Deuces.
Hey, Coach and Commish. Sending in this unfortunate voicemail. After having been assured the win this past week, fantasy football strikes again. I know everybody saw it because the chat was going crazy. But in the last play of the game, losing my playoff match against Daniel, that definitely sucked. I should have just listened to my wife and stopped watching the game, because normally when I do that, good things happen. But man, that was crazy. That was a crazy game. Russell Wilson and every Seahawk that I've ever had on my team has a knack of making me wait to the last minute to either win or lose the game, and that definitely showed again this week. Man. Well, what a crazy week. Congratulations to Daniel. Your team did just enough to keep you in the playoffs on one of the weakest fantasy weeks that we've ever had, getting beat by less than 3 points is crazy. But I think it's only fitting now that I'm on Team Turtles going into the next week of the playoffs. Commish, you're going down, hopefully in the same style that I had, so that you have the same sort of pain that I have right now about fantasy football. But man, I appreciate the opportunity for a voicemail, and let's go Turtles.
What is going on? It's week 16 with the 69ers Minute podcast here. Tough week 15, really tough. Played up against Big Tim. Before the game even started, I had Mitchell and Waddle both out, two people that I really counted on. Especially excited for Waddle's matchup. And I mean, Thursday night, Travis Kelsey on Tim's team getting 36 points, a joke. Would never happen again, but of course it happened to me. And Aaron Rodgers for him just went off. I mean, that's really the two people that he has that's made his team good. The rest of his team is rarely good, doesn't really show up. But, yeah, it's a tough loss. But, it's excited to see what happens to the rest of the playoffs. Shout out to Sean and Phil and Daniel. I don't know how you pulled that off, Daniel. Just like a super exciting Week 15 for us here. Leroy, sorry about that. Shouldn't have happened, but that's fantasy, man. Stuff happens that shouldn't happen. So enjoy it, Daniel. It's definitely going to be fun to watch this week. I'm playing up against Royce as well. Excited to keep playing for the 7th round pick. So we'll see what happens. He's got a good team too. So we'll see, man. Excited. I beat him the first time, too, and it shouldn't even happen. Russell Wilson got – Royce, why you still have Russell Wilson? The man got you 2 points. Yeah, so excited about that. But, yeah, and excited to see what happens to the first-round pick. So, great season, everyone. Keep going. Tough to lose a 10 for sure. But thanks for having me. I'll talk to you guys later.
What's up, league mates? League Villain here. Just wanted to touch base after a sloppy week 15. I don't know if anybody else agrees, but I think that was one of the worst weekends of fantasy football in recent memory. And I just want to apologize for anybody's team who was kicked out of the playoffs on such a terrible week. I know in a couple leagues I was given the boot, and it was a horrible feeling for such a bad week of football. So first, I just want to say sorry to the gentleman that lost this weekend in our playoff tournament. First off, my opponent, Morgan. Man, I am sorry that your team decided that this was the week to poop the bed. I feel kind of bad that I swept you this season, and I feel bad that I'm still kind of your daddy. But much like your daddy, I am proud of you. I'm proud of how far you've come in your fantasy football prowess. I'm proud of how far you've come just in your ability to make an impact on this league in a positive way, questionably sometimes. And then to my man Leroyce, as someone who brings me so much joy throughout a good course of the year, it makes me so sad to see you in pain like this, my friend. That was one of the most devastating beats I think I can recall ever. I'm sorry that you had to experience that, but I am thankful that you are here in this league and that we can share that pain with you. So come back next year with just as much excitement, just as much trade willingness. See if you can beat your record next year, largely with me. And yeah, I'm excited to have you back in the league despite me voting no against you. So I rescind that vote and excited to move forward with you. Moving on to this week, looking at the matchups, I'm pretty excited for the semifinalists. Congratulations to everybody that's made it this far, to Sean and to Phil. Your teams are dominant. Congratulations. To Daniel and myself, to Daniel, really, I'm so excited that you got to experience that win. I know you were holding out for that 1% chance all night long, and I'm just so happy that came to fruition for you. I'm rooting for the best of your team for this weekend up against Sean. I know you feel like the underdog. We might as well just call you David. Sorry, David, in the David and Goliath situation here. But you're giving me hope for my matchup with Big Phil, with my matchup against Cooper Kupp against Minnesota. I'm terrified of that. I think that could single-handedly win Phil his week, especially if I don't have a Kelsey to back me up a little bit. So to Big Phil, congratulations on being a league-dominant regular season champion, but I hope to bring down your reign this weekend and make it to the championship game. So best of luck to everybody this weekend. Thanks for a great fantasy year, and I'm excited for a great final 2 weeks of fantasy football.
Hey, Boston Massacre here. In the matchup of the week, two villains of the league face off between Tim and myself. While I've enjoyed football with no fantasy football implications for a while, I'm terrified going into this week as a Steeler fan that has to cheer against Najee Harris and injuries/COVID potentially affecting 4 of my starters on my team. I think Tim and I will have a super close matchup by the end of it, but I'll give my nod to whoever has the best chief player between Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelsey, assuming they both clear COVID protocols and there's no last-minute inactive between our teams. If I do lose, go win it, Timmy. You're like the second or third person I'd want to lose to in this league. So keep up the villain mantra. Boston Massacre out.
Hello, Coach and Commish. I cannot believe that I won that. In no way did I deserve to take down Leroyce, and what a devastating fashion. It takes him all game with poor performance from Rashad and Russ to finally pass me, and then not 2 plays later, as I called it and was hoping for, the moonball interception from Russ. I don't know how much of a chance I have against Sean. COVID seems to be a factor in this. Luckily, since it looks like Eckler is vaccinated, I'll get him back where who knows if he'll get Cook back. But either way, I'm going to need a lot of luck. I'm going to need some of that voodoo magic from last time, and we'll see how it turns out. Either way, I'm just happy to still be alive. Take my streak of winning the playoff game to 2 and hopefully keep Sean's at 0. Thanks, guys.
Hey, Coach and Commish. This is the Commish. Yes, I have made it to this next part of the playoffs. Thanks to the bye week. And what I will say is I do not envy you guys for having to play through last week. But saying that, we're already seeing the craziness here. As I leave this voicemail, I've just found out that Dalvin Cook has gone on the COVID reserve list, so I will not have him for our matchup. I have Alexander Mattison, who I do feel somewhat confident in, but that is a huge blow to my team. Daniel liked to point out that I do have Alvin Kamara. Unfortunately, he plays my Miami Dolphins, who have a top 5 run defense this year, so I don't expect anything huge from Alvin Kamara. I'm hoping for Tom Brady to pull through. You probably heard me on the episode talk a little bit, but I think that revenge is hopefully coming. He wants to get some vengeance on being shut out last week. The big decision I'm going to have to make is at wide receiver. I'm hoping that Tyler Lockett comes off of the COVID list. It's looking like he will. Then he will slot in most likely with T. Higgins, and I feel pretty good about that. As far as our matchup, Daniel, honestly, anything goes in these playoffs. I don't have any confidence. I felt fantastic about my team going into the playoffs before I lost Godwin and Hawkinson and now Dalvin Cook. So I know we're all hobbled, but that's my sob story for now. And despite all these different changes, you're going down, Turtles. This is my year. I'm not going to let COVID stop me. And I will see Tim or Phil in the championship. Mark my words.
Thanks for listening to the Coach and Commish podcast. Don't forget to check us out on Twitter and Instagram at Coach and Commish. And join our Facebook group called Fantasy Football Advice with the Coach and Commish for direct access to weekly waiver wire and start sit advice.